Whew. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, it's on. Good afternoon, guys.
Hola,
I'm Randy, and this is
Aaron.
Aaron. And today, which is for our quarantine expo here, is May 29th, 2020. You can feel the quarantine lifting. Its
As we
grip is,
speak.
is extremely tight, but it is lifting slowly. People are anxious, but in general, I think people are being safe. Some people aren't, some people are. Some things are over exaggerated, some things aren't. But this video is about solos.
Yes.
So all that matters here is that you got your guitar. If you do want to try and capture some of these licks with us, we are in E flat, both of us.
Yeah, we should note that we are a half step down tune because we had planned a different topic, but prep time changes things, and
Yeah,
so
so
we're just gonna we're gonna freestyle it here.
exactly. So last week we introduced the idea of working on solos to present to you guys, and we both did some individual solos. This week we're both working on "Sweet Child of Mine." We're gonna learn all the licks for you, and then come at you with our takes and just things
To
we
watch
notice
out
about the
for,
tune.
and yeah.
Yeah, tough sections, things that you have to work on harder. But for today, we're just gonna play licks that we love to play way too much.
God, I can think of
That's a great way to
some
word it.
doozies.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the one that always sticks out is the Clapton hammer-on pull-off pentatonics thing.
Yeah.
I call it the Clapton thing because I picked it up from the Clapton stuff. And basically in slow motion here, you play a note, hammer-on pull-off, and then you go up to the next string. And then you do the same thing on that string.
Yeah.
And then I like to add the back to the other string.
Yeah.
And I don't care what I'm playing, pretty much you can be sitting here.
Oh no.
It works.
You go like, yeah, you just want to. It's not Tourette's until it's diagnosed.
Oh man. Yeah, it's. I don't know that it's musical. I think I want to believe that I'm finding ways to play musical, but the idea with that lick is that it's flashy.
Right.
It's show, and part of the show is visual, and part of it's audible. Goes along with both of those a little bit.
Yeah, there's certain like that lick, and I have a couple too, where it's like when you're not in the zone, so to speak, and just kind of like listening to the music and feeling informed by what's around you and making like creative, good decisions for your lead playing. Sometimes you just kind of have an autopilot moment, and just like a piece of technique will just kind of come through, which is like not always a bad thing because sometimes it's good to have that flash, but like when you choose to do it and when it just kind of happens without choosing, like that's the thing to always watch out for. I could think of,
Exactly.
yeah, you just have to it's nothing wrong with it, but man, sometimes you lean into those ones where your technique is. I have one that was like, and I would always do this one little like, and I would do this little like kind of like a it's a little Frank Gambale inspired, and it's like got a little bit of mini sweeping. And
just the repetitive rakes.
Yeah, I would hit. You hit like the high note on the little string, and then you like do an up rake over 3 notes in the pentatonic, and then you land on that one you skipped. And that'd be like, it would be nice and loose. It'd be like, and I go. I just couldn't stop the. Like I was like, oh man, I really like that sound, and then I just would autopilot. I would.
Oh man.
It would just feel like it's just madness. It would just keep going on. But that's like whenever you get a new technique and you're learning a new riff, you want to play it so much that it becomes like second nature. And part of that problem is you have to then make it to where like you forget that it's there, but it's in your technique so that it comes out at the right time. I don't know.
Yeah, Robin Ford has a tune, and I wish I could play it more accurately because I'm just remembering off the top of my head from hearing the record where he does that, and he uses it for his rhythm guitar part. And he does it over and over and over again, and at no point does it sound like a flashy technique. And Robin's one of the few guys that does that. Me, when I play that lick, I'm worse. I would say that I'm way more musical than you are because I instantly go from. It just do it all the way down, and it has no musical point whatsoever. It's just
that's not
for
true.
me to get from here to here.
I mean, it can. Those moments happen, and they're good moments too. I wouldn't reject any. I wouldn't kick any of it out of bed, but it's definitely like, so it's. I don't know. The little moments are great. The entire thing of that can be exhausting.
Sorry, I'm peeking out here just a little bit, guys. Let me
pull
that preamp down. Oh, I think you're absolutely right. I wouldn't throw it away. I'm extremely attracted to music that's overly technical, anyways, from a personal standpoint. So I understand why that playing comes out in me.
Yes. There was another thing I used to do when I was playing like a lot more with like jam bands, and I would catch myself doing it. And sometimes it would be cool, and then you just do it too many times, and it's okay. Here it is. The whole thing, I'll play it, but I just want to preface it by saying the whole idea is just that you lean on one little musical thing and you just do it ad nauseum until like the band can't handle it anymore. If you just go like. And it would just be like where the whole solo would be a long string of like the same idea, and you just keep hitting them over the head with it. And then the moment you step out of it, like it's like, breath of fresh air, dunk of water, because when you finally move on from that idea. But I found that I was doing that in every song because I liked that ride of like making them get tired of hearing it and then change it up. And they'd be like, oh, that's cool. But then you do it every song, and it's like, have like a real arc. Or have like a different type of arc in your soloing. Don't just lean on I'm going to do one thing to where it drives people crazy, and then you give them that release.
Well, yeah, and so growing up in the South, and for those of you who don't know, I grew up in Central Georgia, and jam bands are huge in Central Georgia. Probably other than the Northeast, is probably the biggest, and California is the biggest area for jam bands. And so this idea of sitting on something repetitively is like how we learned to play a lot of us, because it really started out with a simple blues lick. and it would go on. Sometimes you would play an entire, so you'd do 32, 40, 60, 80 bars of that over a blues, and you just never change, and the whole band just plays with the dynamics behind you.
Yeah.
And the band becomes the soloist almost.
Yeah, it's a cool feeling. I just remember catching myself into the thing that I did too much was picking a thing to do too much. So I guess I'm being a little meta with the setup there or whatever, but yeah, I definitely like.
Yeah.
You just find yourself doing it over and over again. There was another riff that I used to do a lot, and this was one that we're still in like mini sweeps mode. I used to do that. I can't remember who I heard do this, but it was like it was the first time I learned how to do like a tiny bit of a sweep. So I go like.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, what if I like made that go down a half step every time on the little string? I go. And so I would have this
that sounds very Joe Passy when you do it like that. Mixed with some gypsy jazz, like a Joe Pass mixed with gypsy jazz thing. But
I was listening to a lot of gypsy jazz at the time, so that was a riff that like. I would definitely like do that little down sweep. And anytime I could get that in there, oh, you bet I would put that little riff in there somewhere, and it would
like
really
like
stand out.
That particular grouping is for me is like straight up Metallica. I mean, or whatever.
Yeah, for one.
Yeah,
That's
right.
some
That.
one, right? Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know. I might have picked it up from that and didn't realize, because I definitely worked on that song, when I was studying around the same time.
That is definitely where I grabbed that one. Now, when I first learned it, though, and as a kid, I didn't get the muting right. And so this is one thing where, as you get better, the subtleties come together. I played it like this.
Oh, gotcha.
And just let all the notes ring underneath like a chord, but it's not that. It's really a sweep pick. It's
exactly. Yeah, you got to roll that.
Only each finger hits one at a time.
Yeah, that's something that took a while for me too. There was that one, and then there was one other gypsy riff that I just about lost a friendship over.
Oh no!
Because I was roomed with this person.
Or a gypsy riff.
Like a gypsy jazz riff that I was like, I practiced it to like insane amounts, and it was still kicked my butt. And I thought it was the coolest sound, and I just did it over and over and over again. This is not something, warning, do not bring this to a blues jam unless you know how to use it, because it really, like, it's one of those that it uses, like, it's like in a minor key, and it uses the natural 7, so like you have the 5 chord, or like the 3 of the 5 chord, so it's like not super crazy out. But I remember practicing this one riff, and it was if I was in like an A minor, I'd go and I would just over and over again, and I would just practice those little like tail ends of like connecting the E chord to the A minor one. And I got that out of like a gypsy jazz, like a Django Reinhardt kind of like style that I had heard. And I remember that one, and there was a bunch, but that I would just do those.
Who would be mad at that?
I mean, if you were my roommate, which he was at the time, I apologize. I remember him saying, he was like, jazz is the devil. Like, he said it like half joking, but he actually kind of meant it, because he was really frustrated by hearing me practice that same way over again. Which I don't blame him. And I would try to like blues it up after, like it's like I want the gypsy jazz and I want the blues. I want both.
Yeah, that's like the end crossroad, or the crossroads solo at the beginning.
Well, yeah, it's like
when he plays the classical solo. That's was LA Guitar Quartet guy. Look it up, classical guitar solo, and then at the end of the classical guitar solo, he plays the blues licks for some reason.
It's not John Nolt. No way, not John Nolt. No, I can't think who it is.
We'll look that name up for you. Classical guitarists aren't very popular. Even the famous ones are pretty not popular.
So I'm trying to think of like riffs that I just ad nauseum, and I did 2. There's one other gypsy riff that I would do, is that when I first learned that one, I was like, I'm sorry.
The diminished chords, yeah. I use the
and I wouldn't even bother to roll it. I would keep it in the chord.
Oh, I use the
diminished. You don't get to use those like and make money too much, but boy, are they fun to play.
I don't know. I've done all right with them.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean. Like, I guess
I
as far
survived.
as
Could you use that and I will survive? Yeah, there's a 5 chord.
That's all I need. I need 1 5 chord.
I need 1 5 chord.
And I will unleash the diminished Kraken.
Unleash the diminished. So for those of you who don't realize this, the 5/7 chord, which is basically the surrounding chord that ties music together for Western civilization, that motion of 5 to 1, the 5 chord. I should do it in. The top half of that 5/7 is a diminished chord. So if I'm in playing an E7 chord, going to A minor.
Yeah.
When it gets to the E7, I can play that D diminished or whichever note you want to look at it as.
Yep.
And then all I have to play is the A, and it sounds like one.
Yep. So that 5 chord is a vessel for many a sound, and diminished is definitely one of the biggest ones.
Absolutely. Now, I do find myself not just licks getting used a lot. I find myself using the same ideas a lot, no matter what genre. So I can be on a major chord, minor chord, and it can be basically any genre except country. I do find I stray away from this in country music a little bit, but pretty much everything else, jazz, classical, funk, R&B, metal, I like to play the 9 as my melody note a lot.
Oh, okay.
So if I'm if I'm on an A minor chord, I'll end my melody on that 9 and hold it out. And if I'm on the G, if let's say the chord's a G, and just sit on it everywhere. And you can take the 1 to 9, always nice.
Yeah.
You brave on right there. Sounds just like him.
There you go.
First
a
try.
lot of that tension release, the tension from 2 is like, yeah, it's very cross genre, you know.
Yeah, do you have ideas like that? Did you find yourself repeating all the time?
Yeah. Trying to think. But yeah, you know what? I would do that same one, but I would bend 1 into 2. That's a little more of a technical. Yeah, you know, like I would do that. Like bending 1 into 2.
Like that's
sure.
What's that?
Yeah, that would happen. I think, and this is not a pitch thing as much as a rhythm thing. I think when I'm having a day where I'm not really feeling it and I'm so autopilot that I'm not really sure I'm making music, my hands are just doing stuff, and not necessarily for like not a good autopilot, but I think just stuff is just spilling out, and I'm doing the same thing over and over again. I think the hardest thing, and I see it with a lot of people, and if I'm having a bad day, it's the same thing. That's not leaving space and just filling in every space with something.
Yes, it's really easy to do.
Where it's like I could do like something in A minor that would feel good would be like and so there's space there. There's kind of like a melody, you feel it moving. But on a day that doesn't feel like that, and I feel like I'm just feeling it as much, like I'll feel it like be. You know, like it just feels like it's just going too much. It's like
It doesn't breathe.
You know, and I'm just like I just never stop. Where like, and sometimes that's okay, but I think respecting the like space between things and letting the rhythm section breathe underneath you, like sometimes you have to fight that urge to just like, you know, play again, you know, play more, you know, like that's like, no, calm down. allow the, you know what I mean, like have some variation.
Let the music breathe.
Yeah, and like where you enter rhythmically, you know, wherever your pulse is, you know, like coming in on an upbeat instead. And you can hear it's like, okay, some parts entered on an upbeat, some parts entered on a downbeat, because you're just kind of listening and you're trying to make some nice variation or whatever. There's like listening for when that feels right is one of the first things to go. It's like in a not good improvising setting. I feel like I'm entering in on the same beat every time. I feel like I'm like going and then stopping. I'm not really like, you know, I'm being given the opportunity to say something to an audience or, you know, like in recording. And instead of saying something, I just like, that feels like I'm putting a lot of attention and care into it. I just feel like I'm just like blur. I'm just going. It just doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, and I hope people watching this understand that one thing I want to get across to everybody is that every single thing that I've played on stage, even if it's something that I'm technically playing for the first time, I've played everything in that 1,000 times,
Right.
or 10,000 times, or 100,000 times for some things. At no point am I walking into a scenario where I'm playing a lick that I've 100% never played any idea of that lick.
Yeah.
And so at some point, it does become, it's almost exhausting in a way. This is the billionth time I've played this song. This is the billionth time I've played this lick. And then we go to the one that we play the most, which I always find irony. And so it's something later that I've become comfortable with and just go, you know what, that's just the way I play. It is what it is. I really like this Steve Morris one where we. But you palm mute it and play it really fast.
You said that one shows up like.
Yeah, that one's kind of cool, but it shows up out of nowhere over any genre because I've done that lick. I don't know how many times at this point. I've probably played it 10 times a day for the last 25 years. You know, inadvertently, I pick my guitar up.
Seamless.
You know, it didn't sound like that in the first 10 years, but it doesn't sound as good as Steve Morse after 25. So, you know, there's still things to work on.
Sure.
And try and work on cleaning it up. So hopefully you guys have some questions for us. I think these are some great licks. If you guys want some more of these licks and details, we'll go find them in songs for you. Because I don't think we played anything that I haven't heard in a song before or used musically. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
we didn't talk about anything that's not actually played in music.
Well, I mean, isn't everything played?
You got to define music.
Yeah, I was about to say this is gonna get really, esoteric.
It's not supposed to be philosophical, guys. It's supposed
sorry. It's
supposed to be fun.
Right.
The worst thing that can happen if you practice an instrument is you get good. The next worst thing that can happen is you don't. I mean, as all you got to do is have fun and play. It's just, I don't know. I enjoy it. Remember to listen, guys. Again, I'm Randy.
I'm Aaron.
Aaron. Yeah. At Aaron King Guitar. At OVMS_Gallatin for the Instagrammies.
Yes.
There's all kinds of other stuff like likes and shares and comments and bells. And you guys should all participate in those things because they're wonderful and they serve the purpose of allowing us to do goofy things like talk about guitar licks, which I find fun.
I'm hamming it up. I'm going to ham up the ending.
Oink, oink.